When discussing the planning of the 1944 Ardennes offensive, the so-called small solution is usually seen as the more realistic scenario compared to the grand scheme of the giant move from the Ardennes to Antwerp. It begs the question whether the small solutions actually was a realistic alternative. On the 3rd of November, the small solution was proposed by Field Marshal Walter Model and General Hasso von Manteuffel. Hasso von Manteuffel was the commander of the 5th Panzer Army, which was at that moment defending the sector of Aachen with the help of several mobile divisions. The small solution was a plan to pinch off the American penetration around Aachen, at that stage the only sizable pre-war German territory occupied by the Allies. The small solution was, as the name suggests, relatively small in scope. It would at most encircle and destroy 6 to 7 American divisions, among which 2 armored divisions. At the start of November 1944, the circumstances seemed most favorable, because the northern sector was defended by just 1 division. The American 102nd Infantry Division was inexperienced and had just arrived at the front line. Knowing this, the first thing which comes to mind is the fate of the 106th Infantry Division, which was overrun within a couple of days during the opening stages of the Ardennes offensive. The opportunity of a successful strike in this sector might have been inspired by a recent counterattack in the Netherlands with 47th Panzer Corps, which consisted of the 9th Panzer Division and the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division. These divisions crossed a canal and broke the lines of the American 7th Armored Division and compelled the British to intervene to save their American allies. The Germans suffered, however, painful losses during this operation, and their divisions needed some hard-needed rest and refit behind the lines before a new commitment. While these divisions were refitting, there were significant developments on the American northern flank. Let's zoom in to have a closer look. 2 weeks after the attack of 47th Panzer Corps, the American northern flank of the Argonne was reinforced by the experienced British 43rd Infantry Division and the fresh American 84th Infantry Division to replace the 102nd. These divisions were placed under the command of British 30th Army Corps of the British Second Army. The British were inserted to assist the Americans with the clearing of their northern flank, which was known as the Ruhr Triangle. This triangle was formed by the River Ruhr in the east and Meuse in the west, and with the front line as its base. The experienced British division was placed in the lowlands, effectively blocking the most obvious route leading south towards Maastricht and beyond. On the German side, there was also a beef-up of troops in this sector. The aforementioned 9th Panzer Division and 15th Panzer Grenadier Division were transferred, and the 10th SS Panzer Division as well. 1 week later, these mobile units had been reinforced with 2 infantry divisions from the Netherlands and the 59th Infantry Division still on the way. On the 2nd of December, Hitler held a conference in the Reichs-Chancellery with his top generals to discuss the upcoming Ardennes offensive. Model and Manteuffel once more put their proposal for the so-called small solution forward. All their pieces were in place with regards to the northern axis. Manteuffel's 5th Panzer Army was commanding the Aachen sector, while the 47th Panzer Corps was in position to command the 9th Panzer Division and 15th Panzer Grenadier Division. The plan was to attack with the 9th Panzer Division and the 176th Infantry Division on the western axis towards Maastricht, and the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division with the 59th Infantry Division on the eastern axis towards Haarlem. Hitler dismissed this plan as too small in scope, but he would consider it if the main effort in the Ardennes would fail. There were also more practical problems. The terrain was favorable to the defender because the waterways ran east-west and were divided by high ridges rising between 100 to 200 meters above sea level. Meanwhile, the American northern flank had been taken over by the best and most experienced British divisions, the aforementioned 43rd Infantry Division and the newly arrived Guards Armored Division. The Americans also had more units in reserve, the 7th Armored Division near Maastricht and the 3rd Armored Division at Aachen. On the other side of the Meuse, the Americans had also the 78th Infantry Division at hand. Even if the German divisions would break through the British lines, there would be at least 2 armored divisions in the vicinity to quickly counter the German forces. The Allied troop concentration in this sector was the main reason why this plan was finally dismissed on the 12th of December when the small solution was proposed to Hitler for the last time by German Panzer Division commanders. Summarizing, we can conclude that the small solution was a good idea in the beginning of November 1944 when the American forces on the northern flank were weak and inexperienced. Once this sector was reinforced in the following weeks with experienced troops and plenty of reserves, the chances of success for this plan declined rapidly. Once the Germans had built up sufficient strength in this sector to launch the small solution, the opportunity was basically lost. In other words, the small solution was initially a good idea, but by the beginning of December 1944 it could not compare with the scope of opportunity the American weakness in the Ardennes offered. Let me know in the comment section what you think of my analysis. Check out my other videos in my Ardennes 1944 playlist. If you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also buy me a coffee. Don't hesitate to suggest topics you would like me to discuss in future videos.